Please subscribe before watching the movie. Welcome back to Movies Recapped. The movie starts with Pippa and Thomas, a happy young couple, move into their first apartment together in Montreal. Later at night, after settling down, Pippa wants to talk about having kids, and this scares Thomas, but she tells him that they shouldn't have kids for the next 4 years, which makes him happy. Pippa adds that she has spent all her life reading and she wants to enjoy it all to the fullest without any kids disturbing. While they kiss, they notice that they are able to see the apartment of their neighbors, a photographer, and they are able to see right into it. Thomas and Pippa watch on while their neighbors make love, but Pippa starts feeling uncomfortable and thinks that they should give them some privacy, to which Thomas reluctantly agrees. Pippa also changes into lingerie to seduce Thomas into making love to her, but she finds out that he is asleep the next morning. Pippa, who works as an optometrist, trainee at T heads to work with her best. At work after a successful operation, her boss gives her a bird feeder. As a little housewarming present, later that day, Pippa finds out that Thomas sketched the two of them, but continues to stalk their neighbors, and Pippa cautions him to stop. Thomas thinks that they can be friends with them, show them around and have drinks together. The two then give their neighbors funny names, Margot and Brent, while stalking them. Brent gets choked on a meal and Margot isn't. Pippa suggests that Thomas goes to rescue him, but Margot soon gets to him and helps him, which makes the couple happy. Late at night, Thomas is asleep, but Pippa continues to stalk Brent and Margot. She sees Margot leaving the house and gets smitten with Brent's body while she watches and admires his body. Brent spots her, which startles her, causing her to drop a glass cup. Afterward, Pippa gets a pair of binoculars to get a better view of their neighbors without being. When they watch on, they notice that a lady comes to visit Brent and they get intimate. Pippa is turned on from watching them make out and requests that she and Thomas make love to her while watching them. However, Thomas gets off quickly, which makes Pippa angry and becomes more interested in Brent as she watches how he continues to make love passionately to his visitor. Later that night, while Thomas is asleep, Pippa sneaks out of the bed to spy on Brent copulating with the mysterious. The next day, Pippa and Thomas have lunch with their friends and tell them about Brent's relationship with other females despite being in a serious relationship with Margot. But their friends think that they might be in an open relationship while they eat. Pippa says that she wishes they could hear their conversations, and Joni Thomas's sister tells them about how Thomas figured out how to jerry-rig a laser pointer into a long-range microphone to listen to his crush's conversation while they were in. On getting home, Thomas explains how the laser pointer works, but states that it's illegal and there's no way to capture the vibration from across the street unless they place a mirror behind Brent's studio. While they talk, they notice that Brent and Margot are having a Halloween party in their apartment, and Pippa suggests that they sneak in the couple's dress in their Halloween costumes and leave for their neighbor's apartment. Inside, Brent grabs Pippa and a curious Thomas follows them immediate. Brent then makes them pose in a romantic position and takes a picture of them while Thomas talks with some of the guests. Pippa plants the mirror in the studio. Thomas then sets up the microphone and they are able to listen in on their neighbors' conversations. They hear Margot accusing Brent of cheating on her in their apartment, but Brent tries to blackmail her emotionally by suggesting they get a divorce, causing Margot to apologize. However, Brent becomes violent and accidentally breaks Margot's glasses while they. The next morning, Margot visits LT to get a new pair of glasses and Pippa is assigned to attend to her. Pippa finds out that Margot's real name is Julia and she conducts an eye exam for her. Pippa recommends a pair of glasses to her and Julia invites her for a cup of coffee, stating that she seems cool. She gives Julia her contact and she promises to give her a call later that day. Thomas spies on Brent and sees him take advantage of a client and quickly stops as he is unable to. Pippa soon returns home. She tells Thomas about her encounter with Julia and how she wants to be her friend. Thomas thinks that it's none of her business to talk with Julia about her relationship, but Pippa insists on meeting her that weekend. Enraged, Thomas walks out of the house to get a drink and Pippa sneaks up on Julia and her boyfriend and watches as Brent rejects Julia's offer to make love to him during the weekend. Julia and Pippa meet to the spa and the two of them talk about their career. Julia tells her that her husband's name is Sebastian, said for short, and he was the one who got her a job at a studio. She adds that they love each other a lot, even though SC comes with a lot of baggage. Pippa accidentally calls her Margot, but she quickly turns it around to avoid suspicions and states that she knows her name now. Before they leave, Julia tells her to meet her husband sometime, and Pippa agree. As the day goes by, Pippa continues to spy on SC and finds out that he disposed of a condom in the bathroom trash bin after having a threesome. Later that night, Pippa sneaks out of the bed and tries to send a message to Julia using the lesser printer. Pippa tells her that Ceb is cheating on her and asks her to check the trash bin. However, Thomas realizes what she has done and confronts her for being invested in Essie and Julia's relat. Pippa defends herself, revealing that she can't just sit back and watch. Pippa blames Thomas as it was his idea to spy on them initially, but they soon see Julia trying to kill Eb. Thomas suggests that they call the cop, but Pippa stops him and he breaks the binoculars in anger. The next morning, Pippa apologizes to Thomas for her behavior and promises to throw away the binoculars, but they soon find out that Juliet is dead after she seemingly slits her. Thomas blames her for Julia's death, breaks up with her and leaves the house. While at work, Pippa sees Julia's pair of glasses and decides to call her. She initially tells her that her pair of glasses are available, but soon starts to cry and apologize for what happened. Despite being heartbroken, Pippa continues to spy on Essie and watches him while he drinks. In anger, she sees him heading to a bar and decides to follow him inside subspots and goes to meet her as she looks. He speaks to her out of anger, but Julia cheers him up by telling him a story of the ass and his masters, with the moral lesson being that he who finds discontentment in one place is unlikely to find happiness in another. Say asks to take a picture of her in his apartment, to which she agrees without hesitation. Sub invites her to his latest exhibition in a few weeks and she tells him that she will think. Said begins to take the pictures, but convinces her to take off her clothes while he also does the same, to make her feel more comfortable. The two start to kiss and then make out. Meanwhile, Thomas is on his way to their apartment with a flower in his hand to apologize to Pippa. He takes a drink from the refrigerator, but it tastes disgusting, and he decides to give it to the birds and the bird feeder. However, he spots Pippa making out with. He gets the binoculars to have a better view and becomes sad. After realizing that Pippa cheated on him the next morning, Pippa returns home and discovers that Thomas committed suicide. She attends the funeral, but soon becomes sad and lonely. After a few weeks, Pippa meets with her friend Ari and explains everything that happened to her. Ari tries to cheer her up and says that she is not a bad person, but Pippa thinks that if she sees Essie, she will be able to move. Pippa tells her about the exhibition and they both leave for it. On getting to the exhibition, Pippa finds out that Juliet is alive and the exhibition is about her relationship with Thomas. It turns out that Seven and Julia owned the apartment they are living in, and while she and Thomas thought they were watching them, in truth Seven and Julia were actually watching them furious. Pippa leaves the exhibition and goes to Essie's apartment. She finds their secret room and destroys the place out of. The next day, Pippa moves out of the apartment, but before leaving she realizes that Seven and Julia killed Thomas after finding out that the birds are all dead. During an interview with Seven and Julia, they revealed that it was stated in the contract they signed that they will be monitored and photographed, which Pippa and Thomas did not read as they were too happy to move in together, even though Ceb is sad and guilty about the situation. The two return home and need a congratulatory wine at their door. While Julia shares the wine, Sub wonders if she ever feels guilty, but she states that she doesn't. They soon receive a message from Pippa informing them that she knows that they killed Thomas. They spot her on the rooftop and run after her. However, Pippa leads them into Tet and deduced that Julia poisoned Thomas and staged his suicide while she made out. With Essie, Julia starts to lose consciousness and Pippa informs them that the wine was from her and she tampered. Essie and Julia faint, and she places them under LASIK machine. Enraged, she burns their corneas, causing them to lose their vision. Later on, a new couple moves into the apartment and they also notice that they can see into Sal's apartment. However, Essie and Julia are now blind and Pitbull watches them from the rooftop. She drops the binoculars and leaves as she finally has her revenge. Don't forget to subscribe and add share.